And hi, Mr. Harris here. Welcome back to The Journey. I have a good friend of mine here today. His name is Willy Rodriguez, and I'm excited to have him on the show. He's going to talk a lot about the Salsa Museum that's coming right here to the boogie down Bronx. And I also want to learn a little bit more about him. All right, so don't go anywhere. Sit tight. We'll be right back with The Journey with me as your host, Mr. Harris.
Welcome to the Mr. Harris Show. 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 It's called The Journey.
And we are back. All right, so we were just laughing. You guys just got finished hearing to listen to the theme song. He asked me if I can put some salsa behind it. I might have to put some bongos on that for this episode. But without any further ado, I met this gentleman. We were trying to figure it out a little earlier. And if you haven't watched it yet, please check out the YouTube page, Mr. Harris RYC. We did some Latin music today, so I had him on as a guest. My first time having a guest on the show, but I'm stealing him now. We're now doing the podcast. But I want to learn a little bit more about him, who I've probably known for about, 12, 13 years. But without any further ado, everybody, let's welcome Willy Rodriguez.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. You know the deal, man. We buds, man. We friends.
Yeah,
man.
for sure.
And we realized upstairs I met you about 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. Shout outs to Deb Jacobson, wherever you are. Grace and peace and love you. But she was the one who introduced me to you.
Yeah, she's the one. She spoke really highly about Renaissance Youth Center. And when she told me you have to go check out these kids and check out the center, I said, absolutely. And when I came here, it was like, wow.
Right.
I didn't want to leave.
So listen, before we get to the museum, which is a big deal.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about you. Like, besides you can't swim,
Yeah, I got to work on that.
Learn that, right?
I got to work on that.
So where did you grow up? Siblings? Where did that music come in? Like, what's
Yeah, man. No, I grew up in Washington Heights. My parents are Dominican descent. They were born out there. I was born out here. And I give a lot of props to my father. Well, both my parents for supporting me throughout my musical career.
Yeah.
But actually, before I go into that, my name is Willy Rodriguez. You already did that. Executive director of the International Salsa Museum and co-founder, and also one of the governing members for the Recording Academy for the New York chapter, and musical director to Tito Puente Jr. Orchestra, and musical director to a group called Excelencia that I've been playing with since I was like 16 years old, and a lot of other things. But going back to my humble beginnings, my parents, Dominican descent. I grew up in Washington Heights. And, I started playing the piano around the age of 3, between 3 and 5 years old. Because my father, I asked him, I was like, Dad, why did you get me a piano? He's like, I don't know. I just wanted you to have something to play. And he said piano was like the best thing at that time.
Is your dad a musician?
No, nobody in my family is a musician. I'm the only one.
Oh.
And so he bought me this Casio piano, the you know what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah.
I had one of those, and right out the box, I started playing Happy Birthday with one finger. And he was just standing by the living room door, and he was looking at me, and he said, "Do you want to take piano lessons?" And not knowing what that...
Yes, Daddy.
I said, yeah, exactly, just like that. I said, okay, yeah. And I just kept on playing. And then from there, that's where my whole life musical career started,
So you took lessons in your home with a piano teacher?
I had an American piano teacher at first. And then I had her for like about a year or so. And then we found somebody else, a Cuban lady, which was like 2 blocks away from my house. Back in the day, my father was paying $20 an hour for piano lessons, which was great at the time. Now I don't know how much private lessons go
$75,
for.
$100, $75 to $100.
Really?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Well, I got lucky. lucky.
It's expensive.
So for $20 an hour.
Wait a minute. That's why here at Renaissance Youth Center, you can bring your child down here to take lessons for $25, not an hour, for 8 weeks.
What? That's a deal.
That's the plug.
That's a
for
deal.
8 weeks. And listen, if you actually, I don't even want to tell this part, but if you're really struggling and you ain't got like that, we won't turn nobody away. We'll sponsor you. You know, so that's the reason why we're here. We have 450 kids here now on a Saturday taking lessons because it's so costly and so expensive.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing. Like and you know, to continue what you're saying there, if you can afford $25 and come to Renaissance Youth Center and teach your kids how to play any instrument, it's not just piano, right?
No.
Then it's very well worth it because it changed my life. I didn't think my life would turn out to be the way it is now. And I'm just so grateful for my parents because they really, my parents worked really hard to support me in my career. So with that said, like I took classical lessons with a Cuban lady, Miss Hea Samper, may she rest in peace. Took classical music with her, and then I went to LaGuardia High School. But here's the thing, LaGuardia High School, which is a music school for those that don't know.
It's New York City.
In New York City, one of the top music schools in New York. I couldn't play the piano. I couldn't play the piano at LaGuardia High School because it's not an orchestral instrument. Oh. So I got put on trombone.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna tell me flute.
No, I said no to the flute. I said nothing against flute players. I said, man, you want me to get jumped in my block?
Oh, man.
I'm not gonna play the
right.
flute, you know? Walking around. So
you played trombone? Slide trombone?
Yeah, slide trombone.
Wow. So you know what? That helped you though.
I did.
Yes, because now it makes sense. See, when I've seen this guy be the musical director for Tito Puente junior band, and you kind of all this sheet music and all these horns and stuff. So that helped you.
It does. It helped me out a lot. Just to understand the significance of having the trombone and what the trombone's role in a salsa/mambo band, you know. In salsa, la excelencia, mambo, Tito Puente. But, you know, I went to LaGuardia High School. I did my thing there. That was great. But then also as a teenager, I joined a music program with the District 6 school board. And it was called Clave Azul. I think I've spoken to you about Clave Azul.
You have mentioned it.
When I first came to Renaissance Youth Center, what I witnessed with the kids reminded me of my childhood. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I fell in love with Renaissance Youth Center. Because I had what your kids have, I had it when I was a child. And being part of that group really expanded my mind when it came to music. Not just Latin music, but overall all types of music.
Is that organization still around?
No, unfortunately. It was dismantled in 2000 due to some other reasons. But yeah, that's where I learned. That's where I got my chops, my Latin chops.
He could play y'all. And that's funny. I've never seen you play anything outside of Latin music.
Yeah, no, I play some R&B. I play pop. I produce. I've produced music for A&E networks, you know. So all that experience from Clave Azul and then throughout my life kind of just helped mold me into the person that I am now.
Where did you go? Did you go to college?
I went to Brooklyn College.
Okay.
I didn't major in music.
Did not major in music?
No,
okay.
Because I was worried that if I went to a music school, that all I would do was come out with a diploma and be a teacher. And nothing against teachers. I love teachers.
Fix it. So you said I'll just be a teacher.
No, but not in a sense. I didn't want to be a teacher. You know, I didn't want to be a teacher.
Yeah, I got you. You're getting worse. You're not doing good right now.
I mean, I still teach. I personally teach. I teach music. I do.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to work for the New York City public school system.
Okay.
So I majored in television and radio with a minor in marketing, with the hopes that in the future I would be able to combine my music experience and my television experience and create something.
Yeah. So when I met you, I think you were involved in television. You were with
ABC. When you met me, I was at CNBC.
CNBC?
Yep. And then I went to WWE. I was with ABC Radio first out of college. Okay. And then from there I went to CNBC. And then from CNBC I went to WWE. Okay. Doing television programming. Right. And then from WWE, I'm with the Yankees, with the Yes Network.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, we got to talk.
Yeah.
They're asking about featuring me in April.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
On the Yes Network?
Yeah, on the Yes Network.
Oh, okay.
You're not with them anymore?
Yes, I am. I'm there.
Bam! lingo. See what happens when you talk and you converse a little bit? Yeah. Congratulations, you guys won an Emmy.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, there's so many Emmys.
Really?
So many Emmys. Yeah, the Yes Network is one of the top sports networks in the country. Yeah.
Okay.
So and people will ask, wait a minute, you're the museum guy, you're the music guy, and you work for the Yes Network?
I didn't know that.
Welcome to the world of being a musician.
Yeah. You gotta make the pieces fit.
Yeah, you got to make the pieces fit. And I'm just grateful that although I'm working for television now, I'm able to do what I love to do with music.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I love it so much.
So you're this amazing musician. You travel. You directed big bands. I've seen it with my own eyeballs.
Yeah.
I mean, big bands. This is that guy.
I put bands together.
You put bands together. How and you record, you produce.
Yeah.
Where did the Salsa Museum come from?
Where did the Salsa Museum come from? That's a funny story. That's not a funny story, but it's a good question. I've been involved with the Tito Puente family for so many years. I've been involved with La Excelencia for so many years. And I just know, I know a lot of people within the Latin industry, especially the legends that are still with us.
Yeah.
And if they're not with us, I know the estates of those that are not with us. And a lot of that, me knowing these people, came from me being curious as a kid. And so me being curious as a kid, I would always ask questions, especially when I was in Clave Azul and coming up with La Excelencia. Whenever I would see like a legendary artist or a legendary musician, or even just a regular musician, I would always ask questions. And I built these relationships throughout my life. So years later, 2021, I had a friend of mine ask me, hey, Willie, do you know where I can take my mother to learn about salsa music? And I said, I don't really know. He asked me, like, is there a museum? Is there a center? Is there somewhere? And I said, I know there's a place in Spanish Harlem that you can go to, but it's not a museum where you can take like your whole family and bring your friends. It's like a really small place. It's more like a gallery. So I said that. And he said, no, I want a place where I can like really take my whole family and have a good time and spend the day there. And I said, unfortunately, I don't know any location. And this particular friend is, who's also now one of the co-founders, his name is Manny Tavares. He said, well, if there's no museum, would you be interested in probably building one? And I said, let me think about that for a minute. It took me a few seconds. And I said, let's go for it. Let's do this. And so we brought in Manny Tavares, who's one of the co-founders, and Willy Rodriguez, who introduced me to Manny Tavares. And we said, you know what? We're not museum experts, but we have, within us three, we have the capability of creating something great with my connections, with his connections, and Lily's connections. And so we said, I personally said, and me being transparent with you, I said, if we do this, please understand that there's no plan B. If we're doing this, we're going all in.
That's how you do it.
All in, not looking back. And here we are, 3 years later, 4 years later, and we've done so much.
Yep.
And we submitted a proposal to the city for the Kingsbridge Armory.
Before you get to that, hold that part.
Yeah.
Why? I understand you said, hey, you need a place to go, but what can we expect in this Salsa Museum? Yeah, I mean, I've seen you guys do a small exhibition.
Yeah.
I think it was at the Paisley.
Yeah, we did one at the Paisley. We've done two at the Marriott Marquis. We've done them at Gracie Mansion. We've done two at Gracie Mansion.
Yeah.
And we did one big one recently at the National Jazz Museum in Harlem.
Yeah. So what did you envision? What kind of experience did you envision when you guys first set out to do this that people would have?
The experience would be, imagine, I always mention this. Do you remember a place called Boys Harbor?
Yep.
Conservatory of Music?
Yeah.
Okay. So Boys Harbor was a place where us kids would...
You went there?
Yeah, I went there too. Outside of Clave Azul, I used to go to Boys Harbor and practice out there with Willy Rodriguez and the band that he used to have. And I took some piano lessons with Sonny Bravo, who was Tito Puente's piano player back in the day. I was with him for like a few months. I took some lessons with him. But So when it came to the vision of the Salsa Museum, I said, I want this place to be clearly a place where people can come and learn about the history, but how do we move the culture and the music forward? The only way we're gonna move it forward is by creating. So the vision for the museum is to be a place to learn all across the board. You're gonna learn the history of salsa music. You're gonna learn how, if you want to, you could come and take piano lessons, timbale lessons, any type of instrument you wanna pick up that has to do with salsa music. You can learn it at the museum. On top of that, we'll have dance classes where adults and children and seniors can come and take dance lessons. State-of-the-art recording studio. Also a place where we can have these big, massive, interactive, technological experiences, like what you see nowadays. I know like Frida Kahlo, there was a Frida Kahlo experience down in South Street Seaport. I don't know if you're familiar with it. No. But it was this whole thing, immersive experience. So having stuff like that as well. And at the same time, being a place where musicians can come and learn about the music industry, learn about how to create your own record label, how to record, how to mix, how to master. Because again, that's how we're gonna move the culture forward.
Right. In addition to that, when we think of a museum, we think of archives, right?
Yeah.
So you have access to like old drums and people's outfits and Cellular Cruz shoes.
Well, yeah. You know what? And I'll tell you this is the blessing. This is for me personally, it's been such a blessing just talking to these musicians and these legends. We have the support of the Tito Puente estate. We have the support of the Celia Cruz estate, La Lupe estate, Jose Alberto El Canario, one of the biggest salsa artists out there. We have his support, Victor Manuel. The more people hear about us, the more they want to support. So as far as the archives, we have archives in our storage, but at the same time, I always tell people that we're going to showcase them or exhibit them. Loan us your items and we're gonna give them right back to you, because we don't, at this current moment, since we still don't have a building. Yeah. Again, we're aiming for the Kingsbridge Armory, so we still don't, it's not 100% ours yet. But because we don't have that building, nor do we have a massive capacity to have some of these archives, we give them back right away. Yeah. So whenever we do have an exhibition going on, it does take some planning, because we have to make the phone calls and say, hey, we're having this exhibition, can you please loan us? Yeah. And sign some paperwork and give it back to them.
I think the timing is really important, really critical in this sense, right? Because salsa is still alive, it's breathing, but those pioneers are gone. And your children will hold on to it, but your children's children may not. Right. Right. And so then those things get lost. Right. And that's why museums are so important, that you can get a hold of those things, right? So I'm hoping this is something that can come into fruition sooner than later. So that way we can gather all of this wonderful history and be able to store it someplace and be able to tell this story.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, like, it saddens me with the conversations that I've had with certain families and with certain musicians. It saddens me that a lot of our history is in storage rooms, is in basements. It's locked up in somebody's closet in an apartment, collecting mold. Like I went to one particular person's house, I'm not gonna mention names, but he has an amazing collection. Like, it'll blow you out the water. Like I know you would definitely love this. And unfortunately, the videotapes that he has and the reels to reels that he has are in his garage.
Heated to the heat.
Heat, winter, mold, all that stuff, So it's like, it's great to see the items that are still there, but it's also sad at the same time that they're deteriorating. Yes. And so it's gonna cost us a lot of money to help to like restore all that stuff. Yeah. I have that in mind as well. We have to do a lot of restoration.
It's almost like you guys need to get storage now.
Yeah.
So you can start collecting it and preserving it.
I mean, we have storage, but it's not, we need a massive storage space for the amount of stuff we're gonna be collecting. And there's already people have been calling us saying, hey, I have all of this, I wanna give it to you guys. And I had to say, please hold on to it. We don't have the space at this current moment. Right now, at our storage facility, it's packed to the brim. You can't fit nothing in there, with a lot of stuff from people pretty well known. And the great thing about it is that it's air controlled, temperature controlled. Yes. There's security, 24-hour security in there. I can gain access to it whenever I want.
So if there's anybody out there who has some storage space that want to hold on to this stuff, let us know. Now, I bet you somebody out here, give it here. Yeah, I'll take care of it for you. Right? And that Chris Rock boy, give it here, bring it here. And they run away with the stuff. But yeah, you guys need some storage space that can be donated to you. Yeah. Are you at liberty to talk about the Armory? Yeah. Okay, talk a little bit about that.
Currently where we're at?
Yeah, in terms of what the vision is for the...
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So the Armory, the Kingsbridge Armory, if you guys go ahead, Google it.
Massive.
Kingsbridge Armory in the Bronx. It's, from my understanding, it's 600 to 800,000 square feet of space. Now, we're not asking for all that space. That's way too much. What we're asking for is 100,000 square feet where we can utilize the space, like I said, for the recording studios, for the actual museum exhibition space, for the classrooms. But in our proposal, we submitted to the city, aside from the International Salsa Museum, that we want we have another set of organizations that we want to bring into the Kingsbridge Armory. Renaissance Youth Center being one of them as well. But in there, we're talking about the YMCA, giving them space. CUNY has space in our proposal. Fordham University, Malik Yoba and his nonprofit organization has some space as well. A soccer league in there. MLB Baseball is one of the organizations that we reached out to so they can manage the indoor baseball field that we want to have in there for the kids, for youth programming. A baseball gym with the same equipment that the Yankees use, have it in there so that people can come and train in there. Yeah. On top of that, a soccer gym as well. This is all part of our proposal. And aside from that, a 10,000 to 12,000 capacity theater where people can come and enjoy concerts, conventions, and anything that you can think of. Shows, right. Yep, exactly. It'll be, from my understanding, it'll be the third biggest stage outside of Madison Square Garden and the Barclays Center at the Kingsbridge Armory in the Bronx, which we need that.
Right. Do you know where we are with this? I mean, for those of us who don't know, Kingsbridge Armory is massive. I mean, it's like, I don't know, maybe 4 city blocks. It's a landmark, so you can't really change I guess they still can't change the outer.
No, you can't change
the inner that needs to be developed. It's a lot of funding. Senators, borough presidents, city council, I've been to a ton of those meetings, you know, sitting on the advisory of your board, kept me in the know and being able to kind of help in that sense. Do you know where we are? Because I didn't hear the governor make an announcement.
Right, and that's the politics of things, right? So where we are and what I can say, I can't share everything, but what I can say is that right now we're involved. We submitted the RFP, which is the proposal.
Request for proposal, right?
Yep, we submitted the RFP. We won the RFP.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. But now we're dealing with the politics of things because of developers. So that's currently where we are right now, dealing with the development side of things and who's, you know, how much square footage, who's gonna get what. And so we're dealing with the politics.
Well, look, I know a guy.
You know a guy that knows a guy?
I know a guy that knows a guy. You know, so if you need any help, you know, let me know. But yes, this is the part that's not so much fun, right? Dealing with the politics of it. But the fact that your RFP has been approved, that's big news. The politics is what it is. This is not a great time.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know enough about that RFP to know if it's federal dollars. If it's federal dollars, you know, somebody's going to make sure that doesn't trickle down, you know. Right. And, you know, people don't realize how much of an impact it's going to have on our city. Yeah. You know, so when it's cut from up here, and meaning when you cut things like food and education, then the mayor and the governor has to say, hey, we got to figure out how to feed and educate. We can't do the Armory right now.
Right.
And I hope that's not the situation.
Yeah. But I'll tell you this, that one of the things that, and not to make it into a negative thing, but I can see why, from the outside looking in, I can see, or from the inside looking out, I can see why it's taken so long for the Kingsbridge Armory to to be filled with, to open up.
Yeah.
It's been vacant for what, 30 years, something like
least,
that?
yes.
40
Yeah.
years?
Yeah.
I'm 43 years old. I remember as a child that place being closed. And a lot of it, I feel, has to do with politics.
Yeah, it is.
You know, and it's such a disservice to the community
Yeah.
and to the city.
Yeah. And so many politicians have come along, raised money, dropped money in it.
Right.
But when you walk into that muddy place, it's like, where did the money go? Right. So it's discouraging in that sense. And it sounds like, at least in my time, my footprints around the Bronx, this is the furthest it's ever been in terms of discussion. There's been a lot of discussion, move back discussion, but an RFP that's been out, that's been presented, that's been awarded, we're taking some major steps. I'm just hoping that the climate remains, that the money can trickle down to make that happen, because, I would love to see all of that happen. What the Bronx is it's always been missing, in my opinion. It's just, we have culture, we don't have a footprint. You think about, Harlem is known for its foods and its places, Queens is known for its diversity and so on and so forth. When you think about the Bronx, and it's not a negative, we're known for our graffiti. As a matter of fact, if you go to some of the hotels in New York City, it says, go see the graffiti of the Bronx. It's more than graffiti.
Right.
And so I think a place like this helps bring a bigger footprint to the Bronx, and having the Salsa Museum in there. Where did salsa originate from?
Good question. A lot of people ask me that. And I'll tell you this, and now I can say this confidently because I just came back from Cuba. I don't know if you knew I was in Cuba.
I know you went away. I didn't know you went.
Yeah, I was in Cuba last week and just got back on Tuesday. Last Tuesday. And so now I can say this confidently. Salsa, okay, the origins of salsa, we have to go back to Africa. Everything stems in Africa, the rhythms, and clearly through the slave trade, the Atlantic slave trade, our ancestors were dropped off in Cuba, in Puerto Rico, and Dominican Republic, right? And so they were dropped off, but with them came those rhythms, those African rhythms, those drums.
Yes.
And so, in Cuba, a lot of the rhythms were established in Cuba. Son montuno, guaguancó, cha-cha-cha, rumba, a lot of that took place in Cuba. And then from Cuba and Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, those rhythms, the migrants came up to New York City. And in New York City, the musicians started doing their thing up here. Tito Puente. Tito Puente was born here, but the rhythms came from Cuba and from Africa. Came up here to New York, and with Tito Puente, Machito, Tito Rodriguez, along with other people that came through, Celia Cruz, Johnny Pacheco, La Lupe, so many amazing artists, got together, and the sound of guaguancó, cha-cha-cha, and all that, although the roots were still there, between the 60s and the 70s, there was a record label called Fania, and that's where all these sounds kind of came together. And Johnny Pacheco, who was the leader of Fania at the time, said, what can we do? What name can we give this new sound that's brewing? And somebody said, let's use salsa. So salsa is not necessarily a genre, but it's the umbrella term that's used to market cha-cha-cha, rumba, guaguancó. Because if you listen to Fania records, you're gonna hear those rhythms: cha-cha-cha, rumba, guaguancó, mambo. You're gonna hear all of that. So salsa is a combination of all those rhythms.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's where salsa came from.
I think we should do a show. I met a gentleman, and you probably know someone, because the gentleman I'm talking about ran away with my $5. But I'm pretty sure you know one that can come in here and really go through those rhythms, because I find that to be quite fascinating.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how all these rhythms tie in.
Yeah. And you hear those rhythms not just in salsa music, but you hear them in rock and roll, you hear them in jazz, you hear them they're all over the place. Especially when you listen to the clave. For those that don't know, the clave is.
Yeah.
You hear that in American music too. We can't talk about the clave without talking about Chano Pozo and Dizzy Gillespie. Dizzy Gillespie and Chano Pozo got together at one point in the 40s, I believe it was the 40s, and they created a Latin jazz song called Manteca.
Oh, okay.
Manteca, you hear, is one of the first times that you hear the combination of the conga drum and jazz together. And it's because of a Cuban musician named Chano Pozo.
Oh.
And you hear the influence of the clave and Latin rhythms in there.
Yeah.
So there's so much history, man. There's so much history. So I don't want to, if I offended anybody, I don't want to offend anybody, because I know you speak to a Venezuelan or a Puerto Rican or whatever, they'll give you a different story of the history of salsa.
I think that story seems to be constantly originating back to Africa. So I've heard the story told quite a few times recently.
Yeah.
And it seems to always be going back to Africa,
Always.
So
Yeah.
cool. So on that note, let's go back to Africa. Actually, let's go home. So we're gonna sign off. It's been great having you here.
Oh, thank you.
Hopefully the next time we have you back on the show, I don't want to limit that, because we'll probably have you back on the show probably sooner. But I can't wait to have you back on the show to talk about where we are with the groundbreaking of the Salsa Museum.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I would love to
We
come
might
back.
even shoot it live there.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, that'd be amazing to
Yeah.
do, if we can follow this experience with you.
For sure.
Man, as always, man, you know I love you, man. Very proud of
Likewise.
you. This is just a stand-up gentleman. He's the kind of guy you can call on anytime for anything, and he's there for you. So it's been great to have you on the show.
Thank you very
for being
much.
Here.
I appreciate you.
And once again, if you haven't checked it out yet, please check out Mr. Harris RYC on the YouTube page as well. I have him as a guest. Actually, he's my first guest on that show, doing music. All right, as always, love you. The Journey, Mr. Harris. Good having you.
Welcome to the Mr. Harris Show. 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 It's called The Journey.